Right, here we are once again. So my apologies for that. So hopefully he'll be back. Right, someone's joined me, thank you. That's good to see you. Thank you for that. If you joined the last one, I apologise, but I think I allowed someone to jump on the video, the live. Like I said, it's the first time I'm doing a live, so forgive me for that mistake, but it's good to see you all here. Palkesh, is that you? Good to see you. Right. Well, Helen, you're back. Good to see you, Helen. Helen Wellington, lovely woman. Very skilled woman as well. Okay, so we're talking about anxiety, and we were talking about how to deal with anxiety, and as I've said, but I'm going to repeat myself a little bit. Anxiety exists when our mind is in the past or our mind is in the future. So when we're in the present moment and we're focusing on the present moment, that's when we can actually just have peace and equanimity, focus on our breathing and just ground ourselves in the present moment. And that is a discipline and a skill that we can all learn, and that will certainly help you with anxiety. It will help with all sorts of things, depression, worry, anxiety, fear. So that's a really important thing. Am I a doctor of psychology? No, I'm not a doctor of psychology. I've done a lot of work in the areas of NLP, EFT, hypnotherapy, and I've studied Buddhism for many, many years, particularly Buddhist concepts and precepts, and also meditation and mindfulness tools. Excuse me. So anyway, hi to you all. It's good to be here. Right, I've had a couple of questions come through, and if you have any, pop them on there. Hopefully I'll see them, so that'll be good. This was one I got earlier today. Is it ever too late to change your circumstances, Mark? No, it's never too late to change your circumstances. I mean, I'm 63 years young, and I've changed so much over the years. When I was a young man, I was in the forces. I was conditioned to be a service person. And when I left, I was very aggressive and very angry. And I've now completely changed. I'm not the person I was. But something to think about on this is that millions and billions of cells in your body right now are literally dying and being reborn. So they're dying and new ones are replacing them. That's happening right now. I mean, every in-breath you take is new life. Every out-breath you take is like a mini death. So you literally are born and die every breath you take. That's a complete change. And 98% of the atoms that make up who you are were not there 12 months ago. So you're literally born new every year. Every part of your body is renewed every year. And if you think about subatomic particles, they pop in and out of existence, and that's happening to you right now. I mean, do you miss anything about the person you were, Mark? No, I don't. I don't miss the person I was, because I accept change. I accept impermanence. I accept that nothing's going to stay the change and everything changes. And I think that's a really good question that someone asked there, because a lot of people don't want to change. They don't want to get older. They don't want to get ill naturally. Of course, they don't want disease, and a lot of people don't want to die. But we have to understand that it's all a process. I mean, just think for a moment. If no one ever died, there's nearly 8 billion of us on this planet. Imagine what that would be like. The overcrowding would be immense. But death, for me, anyway, from what I understand, isn't the end. It's just a transformation, because energy can't be created, it can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed. That's a scientific law. It's a law of thermodynamics. So when this physical presence is gone, our energy will continue on. I'm 100% certain of that. And recently I lost my dog after 9.5 years, who I loved very much. And of course it's emotional, you feel sad, but I know he's still with me. He's in every breath I take. We're all interconnected. I see my dog in every blade of grass, every ray of sunshine. I feel him in every breath I take. And my ancestors live on in me. And when this physical presence is gone, I'll live on in my children. And because we're all connected, it's just a fact. We all live on in each other anyway. Warrior Elita said, "So sorry, don't be sorry. It's a beautiful thing if we understand it, because he doesn't suffer anymore." So that's one take on change. We are just constantly in a complete change of flux and impermanence. I mean, someone asked me a question now about anxiety. I did cover that earlier on. I'll come back to it later on again if need be, if more of you want to hear that. Need to understand the pain comes from family members, dad, then mum, and now sister. Is it past life karma, or is there such a thing? Family is where you expect the most love from. Yeah, that's a very, very good point you make there. Family is where you expect the most love from. It's also where you get the most suffering from too, in many cases, those closest to us. And I've experienced it in my family because, we are all connected and family members are connected too. And when we're very, very close to someone, we get an attachment. And then when something goes wrong, that attachment causes suffering. And this is what Buddhists talk about. It's one of the first laws of Buddhism, is that all suffering comes from attachment. So if we become attached to anything, it's going to potentially lead to suffering. And therefore non-attachment is a really important thing to understand. And someone asked me a question earlier on today, for tonight actually. They said, how do you let go? We have been trying for a baby for over 4 years, but I think I've realised the want/desperation is pushing it away. How do I let go and release it and move on? And that's a very, very good question, because if we want something, we have this desire to want. You can't hear me very well. Sorry, I've got the volume turned up, I think, pretty sure. Yeah, I'll turn up. Right, if we have the desire to want, then what happens is when we send that desire out into the cosmos, the universe, then the universe rewards us by giving us more want. It doesn't give us what we like. But I read something today written by the Dalai Lama, which explains this brilliantly, and it says, peace and equanimity come from letting go of our attachment to the goal and the method. Reflecting on this seeming paradox of pursuing a goal yet with no attachment to its outcome can be an important insight. And this is a deep recognition that while each of us should do everything we can to realise the goal we seek, whether or not we succeed often depends on many factors beyond our control. So our responsibility is to pursue the goal with all the dedication we can muster, do the best we can, but not become fixated on a preconceived notion of a result. Sometimes, actually quite often, our efforts lead to an unexpected outcome that might even be better than what we originally had in mind. And this is an important thing, and I've been privileged enough to work with Olympic athletes, and one of the things they understand is they'll put in all the hard work and they'll get ready for the race or the event, and then when they're at that point where it's about to start, they let go of all attachment on the outcome and they accept that what will be. And that can become quite a calming sensation. And that calming sensation actually works as a positive in terms of increasing their performance. So in relation to wanting a baby, don't become attached to the outcome. By all means, do everything in your desire to pursue what you need to do to help make that happen, but don't become attached to the outcome. And an interesting fact I uncovered today actually on that question was that, where is it now? Is that when a woman particularly is being altruistic, is helping others, they produce the same feeling as if they're generating breast milk. So that's something, if you want to hopefully help the process, help others, because if you engender that feeling and you can get that feeling that you're producing the breast milk, that then is absolutely in line with having a child. Okay, so there's something to do there. Now, there's so many things you can do when it comes to this issue of childbirth. Gratitude is the most important thing, I think, is be grateful for what you have and stop pushing all of your emphasis on what you want. Of course, as I've said already, do whatever you need to do to enable that child to be born. Just don't hold on to the attachment, but be grateful. Mindfulness and presence in the present moment. So when you're with your loved one, be with your loved one. Don't be with your loved one with your mind thinking about what you want to have for tea. Be with your loved one. That's the most important thing. That being present in the moment is absolutely critical. And pursue other passions, particularly passions where you're helping people, because helping others is going to help you. And according to the research I read today, that's going to help with childbirth. So I hope that advice helps there. What else have I been asked? How to get out of a constant state of fight or flight. Well, fight and flight is caused by our attachment to goals and outcomes and our need to achieve, in many cases, in terms of the general consensus of the thing. And again, it's very similar to anxiety. We could be thinking about something we want in the future, or we could be thinking about something that's happened in the past and then worrying about whether our past is going to repeat itself in the future. So our mind is going between the past and the future. And this is the same for anxiety that I talked about earlier on. So learning to just be, remember, we're human beings. We're not human doers. We're human beings. And if we can learn to just be in the present moment with our breath, with our presence, with whoever we're with, anxiety and fear cannot exist in the present moment. It's just there. And all this is good. It's good stuff. It's good preventative stuff. So if you're wanting to boost your immune system, to help you prevent getting ill, then gratitude, mindfulness, meditation, all that's important, because it helps you to build up that resilience and it helps you to become more compassionate. And recently I was reading a book where the Dalai Lama was talking about a Buddhist monk who was imprisoned and tortured in China for 18 years, and he managed to escape. And the Dalai Lama was talking about, were you ever in fear? And thinking that the monk would respond by saying, yes, I was in fear for my life. And the monk responded by saying, yes, I was in fear of losing my compassion for the Chinese torturers. I mean, that's a tremendous ability, if you think about it, to have that much compassion. But this monk survived and he lived on to his 90s, which goes to show you that his physical being benefited from the whole aspect of generating this compassion through mindfulness, meditation and practice about being in the present moment. Worry, someone's asking about worry here. I mean, if you think about worry, it's an interesting concept, because when we worry about something, we take our mind off into the future and we basically relive the thing that hasn't happened yet. So we can see what's going to happen, we can hear what's going to happen, and we can feel what's going to happen. They're the three components, the submodalities, if you like, that make up worry. So, Shantideva, who is a great Buddhist master, said that, if you can do something about something, do something about it. If you can't do something about it, don't worry about it, because there's nothing you can do. And Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps in the Second World War, where all his family were basically decimated, he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. If you haven't read it, read it. Brilliant book. And in that book he said, I have no control over any of the events that happen here. Someone could pull me out of a line and shoot me tomorrow. I don't have any control over that. All I have control of is how I choose to face that situation should it arise. He said, and that's the one thing that I'll focus on. And they found in the concentration camps that those people who could basically not worry about what's going to happen survived. Whereas a lot of people, and there was some research done by another lady, I can't remember her name, that survived the concentration camp, and she said that a lot of the privileged children and people who went there, who hadn't built up that resilience through having had experience of suffering before, actually were waiting for people to come and rescue them, and when no one rescued them, they died. They gave up the fight and died. So sometimes, as I said on a video actually, suffering can be a good thing, because within any adversity, there's a seed of an equivalent good. So if we're going through suffering right now, and we are dealing with that, it's helping us build our inner strength. It's helping us, generate this inner calm if we're dealing with it properly. And if we do that time and time again, we build up this resilience. How to break the fight or flight response? Well, first thing is, if you're in a situation where you feel the fight and flight response, leave the situation. Simple as that. Just get away from the situation. If you can't leave the situation, so let's say, for example, you're in your workplace and you've got someone sitting near you that you don't get on with, but you have to be there to do your work, then if you can't change the situation, change your perception of the situation. And understand this, everyone wants the same thing. Everyone wants to be happy and everyone wants to be free from suffering. So the person that you may not be getting on with at work, or the person that's antagonizing you, if you think about them differently, if you perceive them as a mother or a father, you will see that they have the same basic worries, the same anxieties, the same fear as everyone else. So having compassion towards them, and again, using this inner strength that you can develop and generate, you can learn to break the fight and flight response. Now, I mentioned earlier on, when I left the forces, I was very angry, I was very aggressive, and I would, my fight and flight response was on 24/7, which is not a good thing, because when your fight and flight response is on, your immune system is suppressed. So, because you're producing stress hormones. And if you think about transplants, organ transplants, when they go to transplant an organ in someone, they inject them with stress, basically, which suppresses the immune system, so they can actually implant the organ so that the body doesn't reject it. So, when you're suppressing the immune system, we're leaving ourselves wide open to all sorts of illnesses and disease. And if you're living this 24/7, then you need to change it. You need to change it. Just take time out. Honestly, being on your own, being in silence, focusing on your breathing. You cannot be in a fight and flight response when you do that. So when you're driving your car, this is something I do. If I stop at traffic lights and the lights are red so I can't go, I use that time between the lights changing just to focus on my breathing. Because if you're breathing and you're focusing on your breathing, so you're aware of it and you have concentration and focus, you're meditating. And you only need to meditate for a minute, 30 seconds, doesn't matter. That can bring you right down. And lots of short meditations are actually more beneficial than trying to maintain a long meditation. So lots of short meditations throughout the day can work for you. So try that. That will help you break the fight and flight response. I've got another one here, 65 years young, and I work in a school part-time. I don't enjoy the work, but of course I do enjoy the money. I'm a spender and like to be able to buy what I want. I know it's my decision to make it's my decision to retire, whether I retire or not, but I just cannot make that decision, and I'm getting very tired. Can you help? Because you're saying you can't make a decision, but actually by not making a decision, you're making a decision. You're making a decision to not make a decision, so you're making a decision. It's as simple as that. I suppose the real question here is possibly why is it that you need to continually spend and buy stuff? Do you really need the stuff that you want to buy? And when you buy this stuff, does it truly make you happy? Or is it just pleasure? Because there's a difference between happiness and pleasure. True happiness comes from within, whereas pleasure comes from without, externally motivated. So if I want a new car or a new watch or a new computer and I go and buy it, I might gain pleasure from it, but that pleasure will wear off quickly, and then I want to the next, I must buy something else or buy another one of those or do this. So pleasure can be like an addiction, similar to drink, drugs and sex. It can be an addiction because it's not true happiness, it's pleasure. And if you find true happiness, and when I say find it, I don't mean you have to go and look for it. It's in here now. You just have to be happy. There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. And that's what the great Thich Nhat Hanh used to teach us. Just be happy. All right? There's so much you can be happy for. If you've got hot and cold running water, there's something to be very, truly grateful for and happy for. Because many people in this world don't have those basic facilities. If you have a toilet that you can use, be grateful for that. Many people don't have that. Right now, all over this world, there are people suffering through no fault of their own. Many of us here tonight on this call have got a lot to be truly grateful for. So focus on those things, okay? And be grateful for what we have. don't worry about, buying the next shiny object. When I decided to retire, my wife and I decided to retire at the end of last year, we thought about selling our business. So we could have sold the business, we could have gone and put it on the market, and I'd have probably got a deal from a company who wanted to remain with the company for 2 years or 5 years or whatever, but we just wanted to retire. We didn't want to do it anymore, because to be honest, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, my spiritual path, my meditation path was diverging away from the business we had, so my values have changed completely. So we gave the business away. We let it go. That was it. We found 2 great people who would take it on board, and we gave them the business, and that was it. So everything is possible. Everything can be achieved. And what I would say here, and by the way, since I've given the business away, I don't want stuff. I don't need more stuff. I don't even like going shopping. So for the person that asked that question, you may find that if you retire, you'll have less desire to go after stuff that you don't actually need. Someone said here, I say worry is a useless inner G. I don't know what you mean by inner G, but worry is absolutely no point. In the Bible it says worrying will not add one day to your life. What else we got here? Attitude. Someone was asking me about attitude. How do I cultivate the right mindset for success? Well, your attitude is so important, because it's like the compass that's going to guide you through life. And there's a load of things you can do to change your attitude. Using positive self-talk and affirmations is crucial. The minute you get out of bed in the morning, when you put your feet on the floor, affirm how grateful you are for having a floor to put your feet on and a roof over your head, for example. Again, be grateful. Practice gratitude throughout the day. And surround yourself with positivity. I can tell you now, on the arm of my chair in my living room, there are 6 or 7 books, always. And when I come down in the morning, after I've done my morning meditations, I'll read something from those books. So I'm currently reading Mission Joy again. I read The Other Shore by Thich Nhat Hanh. I've just bought Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, actually. Be Useful. He's got some interesting stuff in there. He's actually written a very, very good book. And some of the stuff that Arnold Schwarzenegger's talking about in his sort of inspirational and motivational book links back to some of the stuff I'm reading about in ancient Buddhist texts. So you never know where something's going to take you, so always do that. So I read a lot. I study a lot. And I like helping people. So people sending in questions, I'm happy to help, because I learn. You asking me a question helps me learn. Continuous learning and visualize success. Create a clear mental picture of what your successful life is for you, and then let that go. And remember, if you create the intention here, this is like sending the signal out. If you can get this and your heart in coherence, so you create the intention, so you're transmitting the vision, and then you're being grateful for having achieved it, by giving gratitude for something that you've created. If you think about it, you only thank someone or give gratitude when you've received something. And because everything exists in superposition, so whatever was, whatever is, and whatever is going to be already exists right now. There's no more creation. There's no more manifestation to be done. It already exists. You just have to tune yourselves into the right vibrational frequency and have good heart and mind coherence. And that is going to draw to you the opportunity to live the life you want to live. Now, it may not happen in the way you expect. There's the first thing. So when I was broke and suicidal, I can tell you that now, I decided to start a business. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I had a vision of me running a business. I had a vision of me speaking on stage. I had a vision of me running training courses, a vision of me being successful. And I just felt the intense gratitude for having achieved that. And then people came into my life. I had a police officer knock at my door one day and say, look, I'm sorry to disturb you. We've been looking for you. We want to run some personal safety training. I hear you're the man to talk to. That just came into my life. So I went there, I met other people, and I then introduced to companies, and our training company became hugely successful. And when we entered into fields of training that I hadn't been into before, I just would use this process again to do it. In fact, when I wanted my first nice car, because I was always driving around in clunkers, in wrecks, I visualised having a Range Rover, a black Range Rover, absolutely visualised it. Then I went to Range Rover dealerships and sat in them and test drove them and took them out, so I got the sensation and the feeling. And I just constantly visualised this black Range Rover Sport, always had gratitude for it. And then one day I walked into a dealership, there was a black Range Rover Sport, and I said, can you do a deal on it? And they did, and I bought it. And now people say that might be a coincidence. No. Deepak Chopra talks about a thing called synchrodestiny, where you synchronize your destiny, and that's what you do when you visualize and when you get heart and mind coherence. So it's really, really important. I mean, has anyone else got any other questions for me? I'm just thinking on here. I think I've covered these. Yeah, I've covered those ones. How to break the fight and flight. I think we've done that one. Phobias. Right. What would you like to know about phobias? Because a phobia is basically the definition in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, I believe it's called, is an irrational fear of something. So having a fear of spiders or snakes, that's an irrational fear, they say. Okay, but if you've got a phobia, you've got a phobia. But what you're doing is mentally is you're creating the illusion or the delusion in your mind of how that thing is going to affect you. And our thoughts are important to understand, because if you think about your mind, and imagine your mind being similar to the sky, a beautiful blue sky, thoughts are like passing clouds. They'll come and they'll go. And the problem with things like phobias and fears and worries and anxieties and phobias is people try and grab onto those clouds and they hold onto them. Now, if you think about it, it's impossible to grab onto a cloud, but we do it mentally because we hold on to the fear and the worry and the anxiety and the phobia, and it affects us physically. And these things do affect us physically. It can cause us all sorts of problems health-wise, but depending on the kind of phobia you have, you can get help with that. I've busted many phobias for people using NLP interventions and hypnosis. So find a good NLP master practitioner, find a good cognitive hypnotherapist, maybe one that does NLP, has got that joint skill, which is brilliant. And all you do with phobias, there's certain modalities that make up the phobia. In other words, you're seeing something, you're hearing something, and you're feeling something. You might be tasting something. So those are modalities, and you have submodality structures to each one. And if you move them around, those submodalities, and change them, you'll literally collapse the phobia. Now, on the last 2-day course we did, we actually did this. I showed people how to do this and taught them how to do this. And we're doing that again on the next course, 3rd and 4th of Feb, I think it is, but I don't even know if there's places left at the moment. But that's something you can learn to do, and you can use that to bust phobias. So that's easily done. Is there anything else here? I'm just having a look. How can you separate care from worry? Okay. Well, why are they joined? Why would you have care and worry joined? Or maybe you're worrying about someone you care about. That could be the question. I don't know. We could move into a field here where we're talking about duality. It's like right and wrong, life and death. We have these signs or names for different things, when actually they're all one and the same. So at ultimate truth level, everything is connected. There is no point of separation. There is no duality. And a lot of suffering comes from when we give something a name and separate it and isolate it from everything else. I mean, this is going on in the world today. It's why wars are created. But when you think that at ultimate truth level, everything is connected, there is no duality, there's just a oneness, then care and worry are names that we give to whatever it is we care about and worry about, to separate them when they could be two sides of the same coin. So it would be worth studying the concept of emptiness. I've just written a short book on that, which I'm going to release for free shortly, which explains it. Because understanding emptiness will lead you to ultimate truth. And when you understand ultimate truth, then you'll understand impermanence and interbeing. And impermanence basically means that nothing's going to last forever. So whatever you're worrying about, it's going to pass. It will pass in some way, shape, or form. Whatever you care about will pass in some way, shape, or form. So all the emotions we have, whether we're happy or whether we're sad, they're all going to pass. They're not permanent. They're those clouds floating across the sky of your mind. But if we delude ourselves and think that they're permanent, then we're going back to the point I made earlier on. We're trying to hold on to something that's not permanent. We're creating permanence from impermanence, and that will lead to suffering. So I hope in a roundabout way that answers that one. Let's have a look. Any others on there? Can one heal allergies that have been there for over 40 years? Absolutely. Absolutely. A friend of mine, John, he won't mind me mentioning his name, he got diagnosed with terminal cancer. He was told he had between 3 to 6 months to live. There was nothing that could be done for him. John's a Christian. He prayed for healing. People in his church prayed for healing, and he felt the healing happen. In his own words, he said, I felt like a lightning bolt went through my body. And when he went back to the doctors and they rescanned him, he had no cancer whatsoever. He's completely cancer-free. Another friend of mine, Andrew, he got a disease. They couldn't even name it. They didn't know what it was, but the skin was peeling off the palms of his hands. It was peeling off the base of his feet. He couldn't stand up. He was crawling on the floor. His wife had to lift him on the toilet. And eventually, he got taken to hospital, and the doctors told his wife he probably won't survive the night. He'll be dead in the morning. But Andrew fought through, and he cured himself. And I did a video with him, and I've shared the link on my Linktree link. You can watch it, it's free. And it's an amazing story. And I said, what was the turning point? He said, I just decided to become grateful for everything. He said, I meditated on gratitude day and night. I was grateful for my wife. I was grateful for my children. I was grateful for being alive. And now all his skin's absolutely fine. He doesn't have a problem at all. In fact, I think he has one little piece of rash on his finger. And I said, you're not going to get rid of that? He said, no. He said, I like to keep the memory. He said, I'll keep that bit. But he's run triathlons. He's doing martial arts. He's absolutely as fit as a fiddle. And then there's Paul Keats. If any of you were on the course in October, Paul was there. He gave his talk. Paul suffered I think it's brain aneurysm on the brain. They told him he possibly wouldn't walk again. He'd had the effects of a stroke after surgery. Paul's an inspiration. He wouldn't accept it. He said, no, I'm not having it. And Paul now does open water swimming. He's cycled all over the place. He does triathlons and everything. He raises money for charities. He healed himself, and then he got a Buddhist monk called Thakyab Rinpoche, who was imprisoned by the Chinese and tortured for many years. And when he got out of captivity, he escaped to America. He went to hospital and he had gangrene in his leg. And they told him that his leg would have to come off, otherwise he'd die. And he didn't want to lose his leg. So he wrote to the Dalai Lama and he said, what do I do? And the Dalai Lama's response was this. He said, you're a medicine Buddha. Heal yourself. He said, heal yourself because you have everything within you to enable yourself to heal and then become an inspiration for others. So this Buddhist monk meditated for hours every day, doing Tonglen meditation and other meditations, and he cured the gangrene in his leg. All of the top surgeons and consultants in the US said it couldn't be done. It's impossible. And he did it. I myself, I had a heart attack in 2019. I had the options, pills, stents, open heart surgery. I decided to have some lifestyle changes. So I became plant-based. I don't eat meat, chicken, fish or dairy. And I meditated, did a lot of Tonglen meditation. And the last time I had a scan, they found there's no scar residue on my heart. Now I'm a normal person. I'm not anyone special. It's just there. So in answer to your question, can you heal yourself for these things? Absolutely. You just have to have faith and determination and belief and visualization that it can happen. I feel that our world is changing and it's going more and more the wrong way, but I hope that we need to go through with a love and kindness to end in a better world. How do you feel about this? Yeah, when we look at the news, we see everything that's bad, and there's a reason for this. We're hardwired to concentrate and focus on the bad. In fact, there's a name for it. Social scientists call it the negative bias. So negative stuff sells, positive stuff doesn't. You don't put on the news every day and hear of someone got up, had a fantastic breakfast with their children, went off to a great job, had a fantastic day at work with their work colleagues, came home, played with his children, they had lunch as a family together or dinner as a family together, read the children's stories and everyone went to bed. You don't get stories like that on the news because it doesn't sell. Bad news sells because we have this negative bias that's part of our primitive fight and flight and stress response. So for those of you that were asking about anxiety and worry and fight and flight, it's because we have this bias towards negativity. And thousands of years ago, when we had to hunt for food and find a place for shelter where we were easy prey for other animals, this negative bias had a job to do. It kept us alive. It focused on the worry and the fear and the danger to keep us alive. But it doesn't have a job to do now. It's redundant. But certain agencies capitalise on it. But here's the fact. There is more good being done in this world than there is bad. You've got doctors who live and can work in a hospital or a surgery in a lovely place with no problems, but they give their time to go to war-torn countries and work with people they don't even know. There's the height of altruism and compassion for you. They put their lives at risk for people they've never met and until they get out there. So there's so much good going on in the world. You've got monastics, meditating and praying for the welfare of people. You've got churchgoers meditating and praying. And studies have shown time and time again that when collective groups of people meditate and pray, they can reduce crime rates in certain cities. Fantastic things happen. But we're conditioned and encouraged to focus on the negative, so we're predisposed to that. What I would suggest we all do is have a negativity fast. I don't watch the news. I just don't watch it anymore. I don't need to watch it. I know what's going on. It doesn't mean I don't feel for people who are in those positions, but I help through the ways I help, and one of the ways I help is through meditation and prayer, because it does have an effect. And here's the thing. If you're worrying about stuff you can't control, then you're harming yourself. You're compromising your immune system and leaving yourself susceptible to illness and disease. You need to think about life like the oxygen mask on the plane. If you've ever been on a plane and you get the brief, they say the oxygen mask drops down, put it on yourself before you help anyone else. You have to be healthy. You have to be well. You have to be resilient before you can help other people. So don't let all this negative stuff take you away from your meditation or your prayer practice or your spiritual practice, whatever that may be, because it's that's going to build resilience in you to give you the ability to help others. Okay, that's so important. So yes, I know things are going on around the world. I know that they're there, but I don't focus on them and get attached on it, because it's the attachment to the negative that's going to cause the problems. I hope that helps. Some very kind comments here, thank you. Someone just said here, also imagine and feel your baby on your chest and yet be grateful for your healthy baby. Absolutely. Fantastic advice, thank you. Yeah. Hey Gary, I can see you there too. Nice to see you, my friend. Jane, you're there? Nice to see you. Is choosing our happiness over our loved ones' needs make us heartless? I don't quite understand what you mean, but no, I think I understand where you're coming from. But if your loved ones need stuff, they need stuff to survive, they need stuff to live, and you're helping them achieve that, then great. But no, choosing happiness doesn't make you heartless. I recently heard the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu talk about selfish compassion. And it's interesting, it's not selfish compassion in the sense that I want to be compassionate and I'm not worried about you. It's selfish in the sense, as I've just explained, that you have to build up your compassion so you can help others. So you take those doctors I spoke about recently. I was speaking to one of them many years ago, and he said that one of the guilt he felt was he would help all these starving people all day and then go into a tent for his lunch and go into a tent for his evening meal and eat healthy food when thousands of people outside didn't have any. And he felt really guilty about this. But one of the senior surgeons that was there said, look, if you're not eating and nourishing your body, you're no good to anyone out there. You'll just become sick. So it depends in what context you're talking about, Nor. But generally speaking, no. If you're happy and you're content, you then have the capacity to go out and spread happiness and spread contentment and compassion to other people. And that altruistic act of helping others in whichever way you can and however small you can is a commendable thing to do. How to bring self-discipline in life. Yeah, just do it. No great trick there. When I was in the military, you had to be self-disciplined. So when we got the wake-up call in the morning, you got out of bed and put your feet on the floor and stood up. There was no thinking about it. You just did it. You got showered, you got dressed, you put your boots on. If you had to go for a run, you just did it. So self-discipline is about ignoring the negative narrative, for me anyway, that's going on and what everyone else is moaning and saying, and just getting on with it. It's about just doing it. Okay. What about utilising visualisation? Absolutely. I mean, I spoke about that a while ago, where we use the frontal lobes of the brain to visualise. So you send out your intention and you match that with your heart coherence. So your gratitude in your heart. So you have heart and mind coherence. And that's the way to do it. And all great athletes visualise. I've visualised all my life ever since, I've learned how to do it. It's a big part of my day. I set a big chunk of my morning aside for contemplation, meditation, visualization, and that helps me set the rest of the day. Everything flows from there. So yeah, visualization is very, very important. I think we've covered most of everything, guys. I'm just checking. Well, I hope you got a lot from it. What type of ministry am I in? I'm not in a ministry. I am my ministry, I think, is the only way I can describe that. I think Gandhi put it, be the change you want to see in the world. So I'm not involved with any particular ministry. My wife's involved with the church. I look at the more Buddhist side of things, if you like, and I just apply it. That's all I do. What's the book and author about the concentration camp? It's called Man's Search for Meaning, and it was written by Viktor Frankl. Oh, Rosie's actually just put it on there for you. Why we're a nuclear prayer child? Absolutely. Well, my granddad was in a concentration camp. He never told anyone about the experience, any word. He survived. Fantastic. Done that. Dear Mark, can you please save this live? I don't know whether Instagram allows you to save a live or not. I'll certainly try. But I don't think they allow you to. It makes you strong. Brilliant, Rosa. Okay. How is pleasure different from being content? I covered that earlier on. Pleasure is a short-lived desire, if you like. It's not true happiness. Depends what your definition of content is, but if you're talking about true happiness, then that comes from within, as I said before, whereas pleasure is buying something to make you temporarily happy, and then when that wears off, you go and buy something else. And let's send out to the Middle East, absolutely, by all means do so. Okay. Well, we've been going for 50 minutes, I didn't realise. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you've benefited from this, that's great. If you'd like me to do another one, let me know. I'd be happy to do so. I just love reaching out to people and helping. And thank you. Have a good night. Speak to you soon. Okay, take care.